My name is James Williams Jr., and this is the second part of my conspiracy theory, or my conspiracy theories, because I've talked about Bigfoot, and I've talked about spirits and goblins and ghosts or whatever. I talked about something. Anyway, we were on doctors and aliens and technology and stuff, and time machines. Now you have to think this shit through. Even if you don't believe anything I'm saying, think about what I'm saying. Not what you're hearing, but think about what I'm saying word for word. Because when you think about it, you will change your tune and you'll be like, this little fucker might be right. Because I know I thought about it. I don't know if I'm the only one who's thought about it, but I know that I have thought about it because I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, I've almost lost my finger. Dr. Kenny stitched it on the inside and the outside way back when I was in high school, and then I had almost lost this finger. Ironically, they're the two fingers that got bit by a horse when I was 7, so I almost lost them then too. But it didn't really, he didn't like chew them, but he lifted me up and he bit down pretty damn hard. Could have bit the motherfuckers off, but I screamed like a little girl, so that kind of, I guess, it let me free. But anyway, moving on. This finger got stitched on the inside and outside as well, and had to go to therapy so that I could get my joints and stuff back into fully function. So, who taught doctors how to be doctors? Not the modern day doctors, because they have college for that. But somebody had to teach the first fucking doctor how to be a doctor. So, how did this shit happen when we didn't have technology, we didn't have anesthesia, we didn't have a whole lot of stuff that we have today due to science and biology? Somebody taught this guy something. Or some entity, aka God, put the ability in this guy's head and he just made it a reality. So when you're thinking about stuff like that, you're like, well, we can't do this, we can't do that, but maybe time machines doesn't exist. Something had to happen with an evolutionary jump to give us that. So does that mean mutants are the next step in human evolution? I'm going to say hell yeah. They have proven, literally, they have proven that telekinetics do exist. They have proven that. Whether it's been publicly known or something is a whole nother ballgame. So telekinetics and telepathic does exist. They have proven that. I'm sorry to the guys who wrote Mass Effect, but they have proven that. I found that out. And not when I was in the army, but they have proven that it's all over the place. They have proven that telekinetics or psychokinesis does work. They're the same damn thing. Telepathy is different from psychokinesis and telekinetic. Because psychokinesis and telekinetic is the ability to move shit with your mind. It's called mind over matter. But they have proven that that does exist. That is not a conspiracy. That is a fact. So that's also a reason why when they make these movies, it is true. If you are more powerful than some of the people on the planet because you can read their minds or you can move shit with your mind, the government will be watching you. That just to be on the safe side, because they have to find out that if you can do this, are you invincible? Well, as far as we know, no human is invincible, and the one right to the center of the skull generally kills people. So, or one center mass. So, if you are telepathic or telekinetic, it's 9 times out of 10 that you're not going to tell anybody. You're not going to share it with anybody because there's no Professor Xavier School for mutants or give the youngsters or any of that shit in real life. However, they have proven, without a shadow of a doubt, and I want to say it was either in the 70s or in the 60s, but they have proven, and in the 80s, they have proven at least 3 cases of people having telepathic powers and telekinetics. They have proven that twins have twin telepathy, where some twins can feel the other twins' pains and other things, like orgasms and shit like that. They have proven that. They have proven that. You can look it up if you want, but I'm going to tell you right here, right now, they have proven that. That shit's no bullshit. And if you don't believe me, then you can go ask twins. I knew a set of twins that I worked with one of them. He said, yeah, sometimes I can feel what my brother's thinking. I was like, oh, so that shit's real. He's like, hey, man, it doesn't work like you think it works, but it does work. So, it happens. So don't think that it doesn't. Jason, I'm talking about you. You might not remember me, but I remember you. Colonnade Hotel, 1995, 6, somewhere in there. But I remember. I don't remember what the hell you were studying for, but you and your brother, you specifically told me that sometimes you can hear what your brother's thinking or feel what your brother's thinking. I remember the conversation. It was on a Friday. You might have just been fucking with me, but I met you and your brother, but you did tell me that before I even knew you were a twin. In fact, that's how I found out you were a twin. So anyway, moving on. I don't even remember Jason's last name, but anyway, and they were black. So, like I said, they have proven that the twin telepathy thing does work. but it's not every twin. It's just some twins are just more connected than others. So it does work for some, not all. Let's get that clear. Some, not all. Now, and the other thing, that time machine theory, something has to exist somewhere, or anti-dimensional things. I'm gonna have to make a third video because this is gonna get deep. But when you're weighing the pros and cons, if you think about it, if you really think about it, maybe there really is a time machine, and maybe there are time travelers who have not changed the course of history, but steered the course of history to make sure things go in a certain direction or whatever. Because when you think about it, if we didn't have some doctor traveling somewhere through time or whatever, pulling a Sam Beckett, um, how would we have learned to save a person from a severed finger or burning faces and things like that? There has to be someone who has taught someone somewhere, and most than likely, they probably came from the future or an alternate universe. So when you put these things together, you're like, yeah, that does kind of make sense. It does make sense to think that there has to be a time machine, because back in the Stone Age, and like the popularity boom, because most people were probably raping women and all that bullshit. I'm sorry, ladies, I'm sorry, but it's probably true. Cavemen were probably raping women to create the rest of us. And then the evolutionary jump and the sinking of Atlantis, there's no proof that they have not sunk, you know. But in that same breath, not all of them probably sunk. Some of them probably survived and joined the human race, and there are hybrids. And we have not proven this, but there are people, and if you watch Destination America, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There are people who we probably mark off as crazy or just want attention or whatever. But you know what? Sometimes these crazy people are actually closer to right than wrong. And because we choose to live inside this little box, we won't believe that shit until it is proven. So, when you have a theory versus, I don't know what the other thing is, but a theory versus a fact. When you have a theory versus a fact, most people are always trying to defact the theory. They want to see if it can really be proven from a fucking theory to a fact, or vice versa. But the thing is, as I got to people all the time, it's that same thing as to believe in God or not, because you can't see God, but we pray to Him all the time. You can't feel God, but you pray to Him all the time. And then everyone has seen a ghost or an apparition at some point in their life, whether they want to acknowledge it or admit it to it or not. It's a different ball game. But you see where I'm going with that? Because when you think about it, how do we know that we're seeing ghosts? How do we know we're not just piercing through the veil of another dimension? If you were a Sliders fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because I was a Sliders fan. And before Sliders came out, Marvel did it first with extra dimensionals, entry timelines, and stuff like that. And if they didn't do it first, then it's new to me, because I was always reading Marvel, and my first glimpse into an alternate timeline or an alternate reality was when Rachel Summers came through the wormhole and met her father, but never told him he was a father until like the Secret Wars was over, and she went back, and the world was only worse for her, and so she had to come back. During the second Secret War, she was a slave, so she escaped. So the Warhounds like really was just tearing shit up. So like I said, Marvel did it first as far as I know. And I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, well, the hell with it, because in my book, Marvel did it first. So when you think about things like this, and you've seen Ghost, how do you know that everything that we have gone through in our time is happening to somebody else in another universe or another planet against the spiritual veil that does exist? If you ask psychics in them, they will tell you that there is a spiritual veil. The problem is very few people have access to it. Or some people have access to it on certain nights or whatever. I think it's really kind of crazy because they had something about the supermoon last night. So, in these conspiracies that we build up or whatever, with these myths and legends and things like that, we have not proven that they don't exist. Most people are out to prove that they do exist. So the thing is, if you can't prove either way, you're on that fine gray line, because no one has ever proven that the devil doesn't exist, but yet there has been demonic possession. The Exorcist was based on a real story in Washington, D.C. about a boy, not a girl, but it was still based on a real story and everything in that event happened. Whereas the Amityville House of Horror, they're still up in the air on that. Where Poltergeist was a completely whole different thing, which was completely made up. You understand where I'm going with that? But maybe Poltergeist wasn't made up because they did something on YouTube not too long ago about Jeepers Creepers not being made up, except for the monster part. But it was a husband and wife, not a brother and sister. They were damn near ran off the road, and they found all the bodies in the church. It's on Unsolved Mysteries. You'll have to Google it. I don't know when, but I've seen it, and I think I saved it on here somewhere. But if you can find it, good luck. But I'm sitting there, I was like, wow, I remember seeing that episode of Unsolved Mysteries when I was a young kid at home. Speaking of Unsolved Mysteries, they need to bring that back, and they need to bring America's Most Wanted back, and that'll be the two things. And I'm willing to be the host. I need a job. Anyway, back on the conspiracy things. We don't think about these things, and then we think, okay, well, how did we learn this? And that's the $8 million question. How did we learn this? Because if you've seen the movie The One, then you know that there's another you in every dimension, and the evil you is going around killing all of you to get stronger. And then there was just two, and they had to at least be two to be alive. And at the end, Jet Li was like, "I will be the one. I'm nobody's bitch," and he just started beating up everybody in this one little prison world or whatever. So you get where I'm going with that. How do we know that that doesn't really exist? How do we know that the Matrix doesn't really exist? We don't. But maybe it doesn't exist in this world. But how do we know it doesn't exist in another world? My uncle, who was in the Navy, and I give him mad props because until he said this to me, it never really dawned on me. It never thought, as a thought of my mind, that this could be something that I would ever repeat. So, and I'm repeating it right now. My uncle and I used to watch cartoons and everything, but I was always reading my X-Men comics, and he was like, "James, let me ask you something." And I was like, okay. His actual words was, "Jonah, let me ask you something." Then he respectfully started calling me James. He said, "Let me ask you something. Do you believe in superpowers and mutants and all that stuff?" I said, "Well, I would love to believe in that stuff because I would fit right in. I'm just not a superpowered human." But then he said to me, he said, "How do you know that Stan Lee isn't channeling all these stories from alternate dimensions, which has made him rich and famous? How do you know that he's not a conduit? How do you know that he's not actually the watcher and he's pulling things out of his imagination, but he's actually pulling things out of another dimension, that he has the only eyes and Jack Kirby and Mike Ditka that can see these people, and they were all just kind of like forced to meet by the cosmic alignment of some sort. And next damn thing you know, we have Spider-Man, the X-Men, we have Superman and Bob Kane and Batman, and I forgot who Superman, but anyway, when he said that to me, a whole world like exploded in my head. It's like boom. This motherfucker ain't high. He might be telling me the fucking truth. He was in the Navy, and we don't know what kind of experiments that the government does when we're not around. Again, this is also a part of this conspiracy conversation that we're having. We don't know what our protectors know. All right? We don't know if there's an alien threat. We don't know if there's an interdimensional threat. We don't know if there's an alternate timeline. We don't know that. Scientists have spent years trying to prove these things exist, and granted, right now they have no results. But maybe they do have results and they just haven't told us. How do we know that there aren't aliens at the head of the government telling us what's going to happen in the future if this happens or if this happens, and we have to change this and we have to do that, and we keep taking these left turns when we need to take a right turn, and that's why the country's so fucked up now? We don't know. So think about that shit as I come to an end of this video, and we'll make a third conspiracy video if this isn't the third video. Anyway, I'm Kung Fu Havoc number 2. I'm James Williams Jr. That's what I meant to say. But this is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Be seeing you.